At the end of the Sedra, we have the Parsha of Lechem Hapanim, Lekach the Soile, where the says you should take the flour and make the Lechem Hapanim, 12 challahs, and each challah must be kneaded, knotten separately. Sheish Sreinen, a challah ha'echas, one challah. You can't make a big dough and then cut it off in 12 parts and bake it that way. You have to prepare each challah separately. Why must each challah be prepared separately? After that, you have the Parsha Vayetze Ban Isha Yisraelis. This son of the Israelis that the Mitzri begot him from the Jewish mother, from the Sheva Dan, from Shloimeh Bas Divri. He's the Mitzri that Moshe Rabbeinu killed. So he went out. So he went out and he cursed Rabbeinu Shlomo's name. What did he do? So Rashi brings from Chazal that two things. He quarreled in the Machane. And also, they say, he went out of the previous Parsha, the Parsha of Lechem Hapanim. He was malagleg on the Lechem Hapanim. He ridiculed the Lechem Hapanim. He said, the Lechem Hapanim is eaten by the Kayanim, by Aaron and his sons, and the Lechem Hapanim is baked Erev Shabbos and is put on the table, on the shulchan, it's put on Shabbos, and it's there the whole week. And the following Shabbos, it's replaced with the fresh challahs, which were baked on the Friday, and the older challahs are given out to the Kayanim and they eat it. So this Ben Ish Mitzri was ridiculing the whole idea of the Lechem Hapanim. Aaron and Kayin, they're princes in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan. As a Ben Melech, a Melech, you give patzei nemes, old stale bread that's 9 days old. A Melech, you give fresh bread, fresh, crispy, hot bread. But the Torah doesn't say so. There's a pasuk in Shmuel which speaks about the Lechem Hapanim, Lechem Cham B'Yom Yilatzei, warm bread, on the day that it was taken from the shulchan. And that happened with the Lechem Hapanim. The Lechem Hapanim never became stale. When you took it out of the oven on Friday, and 9 days later, on the 9th day, the Kainim took it, it was still warm and fresh, and even a vapor from the heat came from it. Lechem Cham B'Yom Yilatzei. was a fresh bread. And that was one of the big needs in the Beis HaMikdash, and they showed it to the Oyule Regalim, to those who came for Yom Tov. They showed the Ruchi Baskim of Snei Amakim. See how the Rebbeinu Shalom loves you. Of all the things that the Rebbeinu Shalom loves the Yidden, they showed the Lechem HaPanim, that it was fresh. What's pshat in that? And why did this Benish Mitzri ridicule the Lechem HaPanim? And also, he quarreled about the Machne. What shaykhs is one half of the other? He went, his father, was the Mitzri. His mother was Moshe Gun. Shalaim is Basdivri Lamat Gun. And so he wanted to set up camp, set up his tent in the Machne Gun, because his mother came from Gun. And they didn't let him. They said, "You're a Danish Mitzri. You don't belong over here. Go outside in the outskirts of the Machne and put up your tent there. You don't belong in the Shevet Gun." The Shevet Gun was the last Shevet. It was the lowest Shevet. So the Pasuk calls it Yalot Shebeshvatim, the lowest of the Shvatim. All the Avedas you find by the Shevet Gun. So he put his tent in the Shevet Gun, and his neighbors, the people of Dan, didn't allow him to put his tent, and he cursed Rabbeinu Shalom's name. Why did he curse Rabbeinu Shalom's name? He should have cursed them. Why did he curse Rabbeinu Shalom's name? And because of that, the Sanhedrin killed him, the Yavin schemer. To understand this, a cloud, which I once told you already, every deed is a ace in the Sefer Torah. Every deed's neshama is rooted in one of the aces of the Sefer Torah. And the Sfarim say that there are 600,000 aces in the Sefer Torah, and there are 600,000 Yidden. Actually, there are less than 600,000 aces in the Sefer Torah. And actually, there are more than 600,000 Yidden. But it means groupings. Like, for instance, in the Sefer Torah, you don't know how to count the aces, because one ice can consist of 3 aces, like an Aleph. Aleph has a Vav in the middle, a slanty Vav, a Yud on top, and a Yud on the bottom. A Aleph alone is already 3 aces. The Chachamim, who the Bali Ruach HaKodesh, they knew how to count the aces of the Sefer Torah. So they counted 600,000 aces to correspond to 600,000 neshamas. There are more than 600,000 neshamas, but there are 600,000 major neshamas. The other ones are subdivisions of them. So the Sfarim say, the Krasa Shema Yisrael Yeshurun. Yankov Avinu is called Yisrael and Yeshurun. Yisrael is Rosh Hashanah Yesh Shishim Ribi Eish Yisrael Torah. 600,000 aces. Yeshurun is Yesh Shishim Ribi Neshamas. 600,000 neshamas. These 600,000 neshamas were the 600,000 Yidden in the Midbar. And each one is the Eis in the Sefer Torah. And the Rabbeinu Shalom arranged them according to Machnes. In Pashas, in Bamidbar, and in Nasai, and Balaischa, we learned that the Yidden were arranged in the Midbar not haphazardly. They were grouped according to their mishpachas and their machnes and the shvatim. Each shevet had kama mishpachas and batei avos, and then 3 shvatim were one dagel. Dagel machne Reuven, dagel machne Yehuda, dagel machne Ephraim, and dagel machne Dan. Before machnes, to Mizrach, Marav, Tzafon, and Zod. Corresponding to these machnes for the Yidden, who are Yiddish neshamas, are the groupings of the Eisiyas in the Sefer Torah, which is divided in 5 chumashim. The 5 chumashim are the 4 machnes, Bereshis and Shmos, and Bamidbar and Dvarim, and in the middle is Vayikra, Teiras Kayanim, the Dinam of Kavanas. Because in the middle of the 4 machnes, you have the Shevet HaLevi. Those were Isaac and the Avodah and the Mishkan. The Shevet HaLevi, they're the Sefer Vayikra. So, the Yiddish machne, if somebody would fly up with a helicopter over the Yiddish machne and snap a picture of a bird's eye view of the Yiddish machne, so he would see a Sefer Torah. Of course, he would have to employ some Ruach HaKodesh. And the Amanish, if somebody can read a Yiddish neshama, and he looks in the whole machne, he sees the Sefer Torah. So, therefore, in the Sefer Bamidbar, where it says that you should arrange the machnes according to these groupings, so it says, Ish al digloi the oisait leveis haveisim. Each one on this dagel, according to the ice in the Sefer Torah. The ice likes the veis haveisim. So, these machnes are also corresponding to the way the Malachim, the 4 machnes of the Malachim, Michael, Gabriel, Ariel, and Raphael, they carry the kisei coverage of the Rabbeinu Shalom. K'mechaylas hamachanayim. And Yidden tried themselves with these machnes. And it says in the Medrash, Shuvi Ashuranis. The Goyim say to the Yidden, join our community. Shuvi v'nachzabach. We're going to make you lords. We're going to make you. That was all through the dollars. The Goyim said, "Shmad yourself, Le'aleinu, and we're going to make you big people." So the Yidden answered them, "How big can you make me already? What honors can you bestow upon me? You can give me the machnes that the Rabbeinu Shalom gave us in the Midbar." So there's something very distinctive about these machnes. They're Yiddish ideas. They're Eishes in the Sefer Torah. So when in the Sefer Bamidbar, the moshe and Aaron and the Nesim have to count the Yidden Why must they count? Why can't plain people count? So the Torah says, the mitzvah shameless. You have to count shameless. Each ice in the sacred Torah is one of the shameless of the Rabbeinu Shalom. The mitzvah shameless. You're counting shameless. You have to know what shameless they are. So this gives us a little insight why the Yidden from the Shevet Dan didn't allow this Benish Mitzvah to set up his tent in their machnas. Because the machnas were arranged according to the parshas and the skarim of the Torah. Each one the Mekayim. The Dago Machna Yehuda starts off as Breishis. This Yid is the base. Right next to him is the Reish. Right next to him is the Aleph, the Shin, the Yud, the Tav, Breishis. Each Yid is exactly in the Machna where he belongs in the Sefer Torah. What happens in the Sefer Torah if one ice is missing? It's puzzle. What happens in the Sefer Torah if one ice is extra? It's also puzzle. You're not allowed to have an extra ice in the Sefer Torah because everything is according to a husband. So these Yidden told them, you don't belong here. You're making puzzle our Sefer Torah. Our Machna is a Sefer Torah. And one extra Yid, one extra person rather, who doesn't belong there, spoils the Sefer Torah. There's an extra ice. So you don't belong in a Machna. Therefore, they are not to a Machna. He shall dig like. This Ishmael, he was rotten the core. He was an Apicaitis. He didn't believe. The idea Kaddish is Megala Sadava Nefla. I'm a little hesitant to say it here. But I'll say it anyway. Let you know the Neflois of the Torah. The Ariya Kaddish tells us that this Benish Mitzvah was Megilgal later in another generation. And he was Yashka. In the Gemara you call Yashka Yishai and Neitzke. Yishai from Nazareth, from Nazareth. So, is er gemis hier? Ja. Ja. This Misha is Marumas, when he's cursed the Rabbeinu Shalom's name, so the Torah says, the Neikev Shem Hashem Ma'is The Neikev Shem Hashem is Osetavis Yishay. That's him. He was Megilgal and he became Yashka. So you can see that he was Yana Chavraman already. And that's how he appeared already in the time of the Mizbah. He was an Apicaitis. And he was Kaiter on Teiras Moshe. So he said, why can't they be in your Machna? Why can't they be in your Machna? So they told him that the Machnas are heilig. The Machnas correspond with big Oivreis Vashamayim. These Machnas aren't haphazardly. arranged, but each one belongs exactly where it's supposed to be. So I said, how can you a cup of tea with this nonsense? But he told them, do you know that there is a mitzvah from Lechem Apanim? Moshe Rabbeinu just gave us a mitzvah of Lechem Apanim. And you have to bake 12 challahs. You have to bake 12 challahs. And these are connected to 12 Shvat. So each Shabbat has a big chashivah. He said, well, I don't believe in it altogether. And especially in which Shabbat that I go into, the Shabbat is done. Rashi says that in Parshas Truma that the Tzalel ben Nuvi ben Chur should build the Mishkan. The Tzalel ben Nuvi ben Chur lamata Yehuda, from the Shabbat Yehuda. The Itay or Liyah ben Achisamach lamata Dan. So Rashi says the most important of the Shvatim is Yehuda, and the Yavut Sheh Shvatim, the lowest one of the Shvatim is Dan. Dan is the lowest one of all the Shvatim. You find all kinds of Avedas for the Shabbat Dan. I told you that a few weeks ago. He's the one that carried a cross, and a Vedazara over the Yamsuf, and the Shabbat Dan. That's where the Vedazara of Yeravim ben Nevat was. There's a lot, and of all the people who ever were Mezana in Mitzrayim, there was only one person who was Nirshal in his work, even though it was the Shaygate. But it's her fault. The Gemara says it's her fault. Shraim is Bazdivri Ramatei Dan. Shraim is Bazdivri from the shade of the Dan. The Torah emphasizes she's from the shade of the Dan. She's from the residue on the bottom, that settles on the bottom of the let's say like wine. So the residue settles on the bottom. She's from the bottom. She's from the Shulaya. So he said, even if the Shvatim do have some Shavas, but Shavas Dan is not. And Shavas Dan was evicted from the Machne. At least a part of the time or a part of the Shavas. And these are the ones that Amalek encountered, because they didn't have the protection from the Anani covenant, because they worshipped Avodah Zarah, the Ktsei Machane. So the Shabbat done certainly isn't such an important Shabbat. So I want to deal with the Shabbat done. I'm not spoiling anything for you if I plant my tent in the Shabbat done anyways in the Viktat Shabbat. It's a Shabbat which is rejected by the Rabbeinu Shalom. So they told him, no Shabbat is rejected by the Rabbeinu Shalom. The Vilti Yidach Nemanu Yidach, the Pasuk says. Not one Yid is rejected by the Rabbeinu Shalom. The biggest Rasha, the Rabbeinu Shalom loves him. And stuff goes stuff, he'll come back to his roots. So the Shabbat is done, even though there's big kindness in the Shabbat is done, but they're not rejected. So, and I can prove it to you what I said, because the Rabbeinu Shalom just gave the mitzvah of Lechem Apanim, and the Lechem Apanim is 12 challahs connected to 12 Shvatim. And each one is chashiv to the Rabbeinu Shalom. B'haraya, you have to prepare each challah bazunda. You're not allowed to make the whole cake with flour and water and the other ingredients, and then cut it up into 12 challahs. No, each challah is bazunda. Each challah has to be made bazunda. Because each challah is one of the 12 tzivuvim of the Shem Havaya. There are 12 chadashim in the year. And each chaydash has the Shem Havaya, the name of the Rabban Yisrael, with a different arrangement. We see it in some of the Siddurim by Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. That says that by the bracha of Mekadesh Yisrael Rosh Chodeshim, Baruch Hashem, Mekadesh Yisrael Rosh Chodeshim, to have in mind the tziruf of that Chodesh. It's a Beispiel. The tziruf of the Chodesh Nisan is Yud Kei Vav Kei. So I should say this Yismachu HaShamayim V'Sayar HaOretz. The tziruf of the Chodesh Iyah is Yisalav HaMisalav Haskar V'Yadaya. That's Yud Kei Kei Vav. A different arrangement. And, being that the Shem Havaya is 4 ideas, and you can actually, those of you who know mathematics, know that with each ladder of 4 ideas, you can make 24 arrangements. But, being that the Shem Havaya has 2 hays in it, you can only make 12 arrangements. So each Shevet is one of the 12 tzivuvim of the Shem Havaya. So that's why the one who bakes the challah has to have in mind the status of each Shem Bazunda. Therefore, he must bake each challah Bazunda. So, and if he must bake each challah Bazunda, even the 12th one also of the Shevet is done, it's a chasima that the Shevet done is chashiv to the Rabban Yisrael, and it has this individual importance. It's individual significance. So why do you say that the Shevet done isn't important and it's rejected by the Rabban Yisrael? It says ha'challah ha'achas, one challah, and there's big side in each challah. The Yerei Kodesh, the status of the Torah were Nizgala by Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. And he came down again into the world, and he was the Yerei Kodesh. And the Yerei Kodesh is Megala, Seidus, Navi, Mitzvah, about the Kabbalah, Meiredik and Meiredik Zach. The Zohar and the Yerei Kodesh. And the Yerei Kodesh was a poet, and he wrote 3 poems for the 3 students of Shabbos. Possibly, some of you sing it on Shabbos. On Friday night, you sing a Zama B'Shvachim, which is made by the Yerei Kodesh. And on Shabbos morning, you sing a Sada V'Sudasa, which is made by Yerei Kodesh. And by Shabbos Shudish, you sing Bnei Yechalet T'chsisim, which is made by the Yerei Kodesh. So by Shabbos in the morning, the Yerei Kodesh writes, V'gala Yilon Tamei de B'Srei Sonamei. The Rebbe should be Megala us the Tam of the 12 Chalas. The Inan of Vishnei. Each one of the Chalas is the ice of the Rabban Yisrael's name. Feeling the collision. It's very hard to understand. In other words, the Yerei Kodesh here tells us that he knows all the sides of the Torah to a degree, as much as he can know. But there's one mitzvah that he doesn't know. The mitzvah of Lechem HaPanim. The sides of Lechem HaPanim are too deep, he should understand it. And he asked the Rabban Yisrael, why? Why is it that way? Why after the Lechem HaPanim? But the way we explained it, it's obvious. The Lechem HaPanim is the 12 Shvatim. The yoiker, the dearness of each Shevet to the Rabban Yisrael, to know the greatness of a Jewish neshama, you got to know the deep, deep, deep sides of a Jewish neshama. A Jewish neshama is deeper and deeper and deeper than any mitzvah. So here the Yerei Kodesh asked Rabban Yisrael, you got to learn time with the B'schei Sanami. The 12 Chagas are the 12 Shvatim. So they told them, And even the Area Kaddish, and probably even the Deira Midbar, that didn't know the depths of the Trace and the Hami of the 12 Chalas. Each Chala is baked separately. And the one who baked it had to have in all the shameless of the Chalas and everything. So why do you say that the shaded done is that he's rejected from the Rabban Yisraelim? Because when the Torah says the most important shade that should build the Mishkan, B'tzalel ben Nuri ben Chor Amati Yehuda, it's with Itay Ahaliyah. Together with Ahaliyah, it was done with the least important shade. In fact, Hachala Ha'echas, one Chala, each Chala baked the Zinda, because each Shevet has its own Tzrufa Shemus, which shows the importance and the specific individuality of each Shevet, Hachala Ha'echas, how important that is to the Rabban Yisraelim. Hachala Ha'echas is the Gematria of the Yitay Ha'aliyah, to show that even the Shevet done has its own Chala with its own service and with its own importance. So he said, yeah, what are you talking about? These Chalas don't have shameless in them. They make Chalas a present for the Rabban Yisraelim, like you give to the king. You give him you bring him a ton nice baked biscuits, but there isn't anything something special. So they told him, don't you know? You want to say that the Rabban Yisraelim that the Rabban Yisraelim doesn't like the Shevet done? The Rabban Yisraelim is warm to the Shevet done, like he's warm to any other Shevet. There's the Ahava, Toichei Ratzav Ahava. There's a burning Ahava, Shalayim HaMelech says in Shir HaShirim, Mibnei Yerushalayim. It's warm, it's a warm affection that the Rabban Yisraelim has to the Yidden. And I'll prove it to you, the 12 Chadas remain warm for 9 days. They remain fresh. The Rabban Yisraelim's affection to Klal Yisrael doesn't become stale. It doesn't become it doesn't fizzle down with time. So the Chalas remain warm. So he said, I don't believe that the Chalas are warm. They showed the Chalas and they saw the steam coming out every Yom Tov, but that was before the next Yom Tov. And he didn't see it. He had to believe, but Moshe Rabbeinu and the Taiyanim tell him. So he says, I don't believe it. The Chalas are cold and stale and hard and the rock hard, and you can break your teeth over them. That's a shame. So the Rabban Yisraelim's warmth, it cools down because of Yiddish Avayas. Concise that all the Pshatim are one Pshat. He actually was arguing about the Machane, that they want to reject him from the Machane. But he was also making the tzanis from the Chalas, that the Chalas are cold. And since the Chalas are cold, so the warmth to the Shevet done became cold. And therefore, I can put my tent in the Shevet done. And that's yuska, who doesn't believe in the Ahava. He says that what's Yoshke's whole philosophy? What did he teach the world? That the Rabban Yisraelim's love, the Klal Yisrael, became cold, and now he doesn't like the Yidden anymore, and he's exchanging them for the Christians. That's Yoshke. The Chalas became cold. That's his sheep. Every Yiddish neshama is a ice in the Sefer Torah. And the Rabbanu Shlomo is warm for every Yid. However, every Yid would know it. If the Zayah says that if the Rabbanu Shlomo would know how much if Yidden would know how much the Rabbanu Shlomo loves them, they just pick up their clothing, they should be able to run faster and run to the Rabbanu Shlomo and roar like a lion. Rabbanu Shlomo, bring me to you. But we don't know. We don't know the warmth, the affection, the Ahavas Olam and the Ahava Rabba that I have done Hashem Elokeinu. I have to ask Chamam Hashem. And the Rabbanu Shlomo wants us to know it. Because every Yid is a sight in the Sefer Torah. If he can look like a Russia, but in the depth of his neshama, there's a secret there. Every ice in the Sefer Torah is a Yiddish neshama. And in other words, a Yiddish neshama is Torah. In Torah, there are 4 halakim. Pardes, the orchard of the Torah. Pardes. Pardes is Pshat, Remez, Drush, Soy. The 4 layers, the 4 stratas of Torah. And the Riyah Kodesh says that if anybody doesn't believe that there are Seidos in the Torah, he's a mule. Because Pardes is Pshat, Remez, Drush, Soy. But if you take off the Samach, which is Soy, you remain with Pered. A behavior. So there's Seidos in the Torah. The Rabbanu Shlomo has designated a certain neshama at a certain time to come to the Yidden and tell them, Yidalach, there are Seidos in you. The Zohar HaKadosh tells us, there are 2 haftarahs. There's a haftarah, the affair of the Cheskel Anavi that saw the Merkava. He saw the Rabbanu Shlomo with the Kisei HaKavod and the Malachim carrying the Kisei HaKavod. This Peirik in the Nevi'im was said on the Har Kvar. It's the affair of Shavuot, the first day Shavuot. And the Rishis Hashem, he saw the Rabbanu Shlomo and the Makava and the Kisei HaKavod and the way the Malachim say Kadesh Kadesh and Baruch Shem Kvod, he saw it. So the Zohar says that when the Yidden were driven into the Galus when the Yidden went to the Galus and they were very dejected. They thought the Rabbanu Shlomo despises them and he rejects them. So Yecheskel HaNavi was in Babel with the Galus, and he saw the Merkava, and he told the Nevuah to the Yidden, and he said the Merkava, the Rabbanu Shlomo's Kisei HaKavod, is coming to speak to the Galus. And in other words, he encouraged Yidden. He gave them a ruach of tanchunim. Don't think that the Rabbanu Shlomo rejects you. He went with you to the Galus, and here I see the Merkava, which in Yerushalayim we didn't see. What Yecheskel saw, no other Navi saw before. To encourage you, to tell them that the Rabbanu Shlomo still loves them, even though he took them to the Galus. It's for the Torah that they're in the Galus. They they need some purification that they can get in the garden. Vidaya, after the second, that happened after God's Babel, after the Churban of the first Beis HaMikdash. After the Churban of the second Beis HaMikdash, the Gemara tells us that Rabbi Akiva was during the Churban, and then he had a talmud with Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, after the second Churban, did the same thing that Yechezkel did after the first Churban. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai gave us the Zayah, and the Seidus of the Torah, and he told us, even though you are exiled into the garden, even though the Beis HaMikdash became a Chazan, don't think that the Yidden are rejected by the Rabbeinu Shalom. Don't think that the Challah became cold. The Rabbeinu Shalom loves me. There is a side in each Yid. There is a side in each Yid that he himself doesn't know, that nobody knows. The Shechina is in every Yid. There is a Kodesh HaKadoshim in every Yiddish heart. That Likudah can never become possible by the Rabbeinu Shalom. There's an Ava Mesuseres that conceals Ahava in every Yid to the Rabbeinu Shalom, like I explained you about Reitzah. Every Yid loves the Rabbeinu Shalom, even the biggest Rasha, but he doesn't know it. He has the moon, but he doesn't know it. You don't know it, you don't see it. It's a sign. The Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva who went with the Yidden to the Galus, he was during the time of the Galus. The Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva didn't have any covered Zelazeh. They weren't nice covered Zelazeh. And that's why they all died out in the days of Sfira. And that's why we have the Aveilus of the Sfira days. What Shekler covered Zelazeh? They thought, you're nothing. You're insignificant. I don't have to be Mechab with you. There is something in every Yid that something he's above every other Yid. Every Yid has a certain quality, a certain dearness that no other Yid in the world could have. The worst Yid has a certain Maila that the Rabbeinu Shalom knows that Maila that the Tzaddik Adaya has himself. Every Yid has a certain Maila. Because every Yid is an ice in the Sefer Torah. And every ice in the Sefer Torah means something. And if that ice would be missing, the whole Sefer Torah is possible. The whole Klal Yisrael needs this one Yid. He's part of the Sefer Torah. And if everyone would really believe that there's something in his Chazal that he despises his Chazal, he thinks his Chazal has no good qualities. He has bad midas. He's a Rasha, whatever he is. But if he would know that there's a certain Nekudah in that Yid that he hasn't got, and he has to be Mechaber, because he hasn't got it and the other one does have it, he'd be naive covered Zebazeh. So that's why the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva weren't nice covered Zebazeh. But there was one Talmud who taught Klal Yisrael be naive covered Zebazeh. That's Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was Megala, the Seidus of the Torah. Being Megala, the Seidus of the Torah means that he's Megala, the Seidus of every Yid. Because each Yid is a Eisen set of Torah. Every Yid bears a sign. He bears a concealed sign that on that side is nice chaim. With that side, he's nice chaim by the Rabban Yisrael. He finds favor by the Rabban Yisrael. There's no extra need. There's no Iberika need. Every need is important. Every need is enough that if he's missing, Klal Yisrael couldn't be. Like if he'd be missing, the sacrifice couldn't be. There's, in the Sefer Beisharan from Rabban Talino, there's a wonderful passage, a wonderful sentence. It's my ridiculous chizuk. I know it by heart, I believe. It goes like this. Nishan Mamen B'Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai Yesh Leichizuk B'Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai Kishem Sha'Hashem Yizbarach L'Koil Kach Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai L'Koil Afilu L'Krisim. Whoever believes in Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai has chizuk in Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai. Like the Rabbi Yisrael was for everybody, Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai is for everybody, even for the Pchusim, even for the lowest one. That's what he says in that Sefer. What does it mean by that? It means that Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai was Megala, that the Pachat Shebi Yisrael has a say. You think he's a Pachat? You think he's rejected? He's not rejected. He has a certain mile that no other Yid has. And the Klal Yisrael needs him. And the Rabban Yisrael needs him. And the Rabban Yisrael loves him because of that mile. And that's why you should love him. Like Rabbi Akiva, when he saw what's going on by his Talmidim, Rabbi Akiva dashes the after the Recha Kemeicha. That Klal Gadol B'Tayra. That's the biggest Klal in the Tayra. A Klal Gadol, whole Tayra, Yechla and that. So that's the simcha of Lag Ba'ayna. The Yelula of Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai. Hayche B'Hayit. I explained to you last week that the word Hayit, the meaning of Hayit, means to concede, to lower yourself and be machniya yourself. Maidem chachamim l'Rabbi Meir, Maidem, Hayit. So that's why by Maidem we bend down, to machniya ourselves. Maidem means to bend down, to shtachvah. Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai is Hayche B'Hayit. Lag Ba'ayna comes out Hayche B'Hayit. Bend down. Be machniya yourself to every Yid, even those who are lower to you. Be nice, covered that. And when the day of Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai comes, Hayche B'Hayit, to be nice, covered that, that's the day when the Aveilus stops. Because you can realize that there has to be Mikayim, because each Yid bears a side. And Rabbi Shimon Ben Yochai gave us the Sefer of the Sefer Torah. So therefore, Lag Ba'ayna is a Yom Tov for every Yid, even the lowest Yid. They all feel shall I say, an excitement about Lag Ba'ayna. They feel a certain uplifting on Lag Ba'ayna. And there is nothing that compares with the simcha of Lag Ba'ayna in Meram. For all the Yidden come in Meram on Lag Ba'ayna. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Yidden come to Meram, the Keva of Rav Shimon Ben Yochai Lag Ba'ayna, and they make a big, big simcha. What are they happy about? They're happy that they're Yidden. And to my big zach, I was zeicher to witness it a number of times when I was Lag Ba'ayna in Meram. You see the entire Klal Yisrael, the entire spectrum of Klal Yisrael. Chassidish Yidden with the Shleimer Kaftans and the Streimelers, and you see Yidden in shorts, and they come to be Sameach of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. There's no Yom Tov that they're happy with, except Lag BaOmer. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, why are they so happy about Lag BaOmer? They feel, they might not know it, but the Neshama feels that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai gave them importance. He was Megala that their importance to the Rabbeinu Shalom, that the Rabbeinu Shalom has Ahava to every need. Shem Shashem is Berach L'Kayel, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai L'Kayel, Afilu L'Pchusim, even to the lowest one of them. There's another day in the year that gives us the same message as Lag BaOmer, and that's Purim. We spoke about it in the season of Purim. So each Yid, even the lowest Yid, feel a certain uplifting on Purim, because Purim is for the Zindiger ones, for the ones that sinned, and there was a Gzeir on them. They were and they were in the hand of the seed of Achashverosh. And for them, the Rabbeinu Shalom made a nest, even for them. So that's why in the Simonim of Atbash, where each of these lines of Atbash tells you which day of the week a certain Yom Tov comes out, so the last simon is Peleg. Peleg is Pei, Purim, Lag BaOmer. In other words, the same day that last Purim came out, that's when Lag BaOmer comes out. Since last Purim was on a Tuesday, this coming Lag BaOmer will be on a Tuesday. That has a shaykhus one with the other. It's for the Pchusim, encouragement and uplifting for the lowest need, and there's a message of Lag BaOmer, like there's a message of Purim. Purim was made for the Nechashalim, for those that Amalek went to war with them, because they were rejected from the Anani covenant. For the Shevet Dan, Purim was made for the Shevet Dan. For those that they rejected from the Anani covenant, and the Ananim didn't protect them, so Amalek was able to go and wage war with them. And Lag BaOmer is the same thing. It's for the Nechashalim, for the Nidachim. But when Mashiach will come, Avo ha'ivnam b'yeretz Asher, v'nidachim b'yeretz Mitzrayim, v'shtachel et l'Shem v'ha'akaydish b'Yerushalayim. All the Nidachim and all the Oivdim will come back. It'll be Yovel. That's because Lag BaOmer starts ushering in the season of Yovel, of Shavuos, the 50th day, which corresponds with the 50th year of Yovel. We'll talk about Hashem. So Lag BaOmer is a a card that every Yid should feel Rabbeinu Shalom. I'm glad to know. It uplifts me to know, Rabbeinu Shalom, that you love me, no matter what I am, no matter what I did. But the Ahava never fizzles down. The Chala never cools off. So that's why Parshas Emor, look at 12 Chalas, is usually the Shabbos before Lag BaOmer. It tells us what a Yid is. A Yiddish Chala never gets cold, no matter who they are. Even if they're a Shevet Dan, the ones who worshipped the Zara and they were rejected from the Anani covenant. And history repeated itself in Purim the same way. Lag BaOmer is a myriad and every Yid should have chizuk from Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. No matter in whatever matter you are, remember it, internalize that. Hafti Esam Amar Hashem. That's the message of Lag BaOmer.
For share the topic of understanding the mistake of the Megadon and how it pertains to Lag BaOmer, given Tafshin Samach Beis, press 1. For share the topic of every Eid has a Kedusha of one of the Yom Tovim, given Tafshin Samach Gimel, press 2.